From the day I created this channel, through every video I made, this has been the goal, and I am so proud to present this here today. We will be breaking the current world record for BTD6 freeplay. Not only that, but I will explain the choices I made and how you could beat me if you put in the work and follow along. We will continue where we left off in the last video at round 457. We have just finished placing down the main body of our ninjas, which will be the main DPS for this run, and the only farming we are still doing is with a few supply drop snipers where the future overclocks will be. My ultimate goal for this run is not just to break the current powerless world record of round 553, which we will be doing in this video, but to attempt to make it as far as I can, all the way to round 700. This will put me at equal second place on the total freeplay leaderboard, even when you take into account people doing runs with powers, and Rules will have to eat a shoe if I beat his round 609 powered run powerless, which is pretty funny and definitely worth hundreds of hours of my life. Oh, and just for clarification, powerless runs allow the usage of tech bots and banana farmers, as these guys are purely quality of life additions and do not give an actual advantage in your game, instead being a disadvantage because of the space that they take up. I didn't use banana farmers in this run, but if you want to submit runs to this category, you are welcome to. This run is not going to be easy. If I want to get to round 700 like originally planned, I will have to use all of the $350 million I have farmed up on microing my towers. The first thing I will micro is my homeland defense. If I use the homeland and sell the village right afterwards, the buff continues until it would have expired normally, unlike many other abilities which stop if you sell the tower. This means that we can buy another homeland back, and in the time it takes the first homeland to run out, we would already have gotten the second one up, allowing for 100% homeland uptime and no need for a call to arms. But eventually even that will not be enough, and I will need to do the most painful and micro-intensive task of all, Azili micro. When Azili is brought to level 20, her hex automatically comes off cooldown. This means when we cannot survive the rounds normally, we can buy Azili to level 20 as fast as we can, use her hex ability, sell her, and repeat. This demolishes the bads, our money saved up, and my keyboard. This is why we have farmed so much, and why round 700 is even theoretically possible without powers. At round 499, the rounds are getting really difficult, so we start the transition to the final setup, selling off our snipers and buying overclocks and tech bots for them. As for the current rounds, my goal is to stall them for as long as possible for as many ultra boost stacks as possible on all of my ninjas. I tried to make the distribution of overclocks and tech bots really efficient, but I was by no means perfect, and you could probably do a lot better if you tried. We beat round 500 here, and for all of our effort, are rewarded by the game with a single 401 Plasma Accelerator Instamonkey. Definitely worth all of that effort. Stalling is one of the most critical parts of a 3-play run like this. Stalling allows not just for us to get abilities like Homeland Defense or the Goliath Doom Ship's bombing run up at the start of every single round, but also allows for a Legend of the Night portal, which at these rounds can eat almost 2 entire rows of bads to be used every single round, and also get way more ultra boost stacks than normal because of the stall. And as for how I do it, it's done by a combination of techniques to maximize this length. First, attempting to have the hex of Azili end before we kill the last fortified bads of the round, so that the towers attack the fortified ZOMG insides instead of the stall, keeping it alive longer, as well as not having the leftover hex shred through our stall. If a hexed bad goes into the Legend of the Night's portal, it kills the hex, so we can also use that to preserve the totem from the hex ability. We also do not want Azili's totem active during the stall, as if it is inactive, the true Sun God cannot see at the very start of the track. I realized later on that I could just sell it, but that realization took an embarrassingly long amount of time. I also moved the Ace Paragon onto figure 8 in the bottom right of the map once the bads are dead to decrease its damage to the stall. You might notice a few things about this setup that look a little bit weird, but they are almost all intentional. My final harmonic is in the corner of the map so that it is in one of the few positions where it doesn't get the TSG buff. That way its totem covers the least track possible. We need the totem to cover Azili for the ability cooldown buff, but the totem itself nerfs our setup significantly. The totem detonates damage over time effects on bads, but only up to 10,000 damage. So if the DOT is more than that, it simply kills the DOT and only does 10k. Because of this, the totem is bad and we want it to not be activating on bads, hence its placement just above the Azili. I am currently using Azili's totem, despite the fact that it is not particularly close at the moment. This is because when we start doing Azili micro later on, the totem starts on cooldown unlike the Hex, and we will not be able to use it, so we might as well use it now. On round 507, we complete the final pre-micro setup, ready and prepared for the future rounds. In the top right of the map, I have a Trade Empire boat on the Lord of the Abyss's water, because the extra sellback value it provides makes an incredible difference to sell and rebuy micro of both the Homeland Defense and Azili. It will save me so much money, it is absolutely worth it. It is also cross-path with Grapes to deal some extra damage. I passed my personal best of round 514 here. Everything beyond this is now uncharted territory for me. I have a call to arms even though I am planning on doing Homeland micro later. This is just temporary so that I can survive for longer before resorting to micro. When I do eventually need to do that, it will be replaced by an overclock for another Jitsu. On round 516, I have to use my first Legend of the Night Black Hole. I am missing quite a few strong damage towers such as the Flying Fortress, Dart Paragon and Tax Zone, as they are actually not worth their space compared to getting an extra Shinobi or an extra overclock. I don't have caltrops on any of my ninjas yet, as while it does provide extra damage, it does it at the expense of significantly more lag, so I will only buy caltrops when I cannot survive without them. The only towers I have tech botted are my overclocks, as everything else is relatively easy to use manually, and having more tech bots would be a waste of space. I am not using a VTSG here, as while the extra damage compared to the normal version is quite nice, the Legend of the Night's Black Hole ability can be used every single round if you stall well enough, which I am doing with that Balloon Crush at the front of the track. This 8 seconds of invulnerability allows you to tank a lot of bads and can survive many extra rounds compared to normal. My Ace Paragon is on Centered Path, as this actually does more damage compared to Wing Monkey in ultra late game. This is because Wing Monkey tends to chase the first bad and deal extremely weak damage to the rest of the bads, so Centered Path is actually better as it gives a more even distribution of damage. I have an elite sniper because the attack speed buff it gives to the cripple is really important for full uptime on the debuff that the shrapnel from the 520 crosspath gives, as that debuff has lower uptime than the main attack and needs as many attack speed buffs as possible to have as much uptime as possible. The reason the Boomer Paragon and Engineer Paragon are in such bad spots is because they need to be at the end of the track to catch the DDTs from the bads who pop at the very end of the track. On round 530, after I used my Legend of the Night, I just didn't get a stall for some reason, meaning that round 531 would have to be beaten without one. I'm not using the hole every round here, but got unlucky and round 531 was really hard, so I had to buy caltrops on my ninjas and micro homeland to beat this round. To use the Wizard Paragon most effectively in free play, you want to charge up to max mana, immediately use the Metamorphosis ability and let it drain all the way to 0, and then once it's 0, use the Phoenix Explosion instantly. Then let it charge back up and repeat. We use the Phoenix Explosion at 0 mana because more mana does not actually increase the DOT's damage, but just the power of the zombie summons, which are quite weak in free play. Now, I know this is the section you've all been waiting for, how you guys can beat me. There were quite a few mistakes I made over the course of this run, all of which you can exploit if you would like to claim the record for yourself and beat me. The first and best way to get further than me would just be to farm harder. My pre-round 40 farming was quite unoptimal, and if you did some snipers behind the logs before going for your Chinooks, as well as microing better, you might be able to get to $1.8 to $1.9 million by round 40. My Monkeyopolis was in a slightly wrong spot, causing it not to be within Monkey City range for much of the sniper farming process, as well as blocking extra spots for snipers. I didn't use the permabrew bug on the Monkeyopolis to give it extra range, and therefore more farms sacrificed. The permabrew bug is where you have a permabrew throw a potion on a monkey that can accept the buff, and selling the accepting tower mid-flight and placing the village in the middle of the map before the potion lands. If done correctly, the village will become permabrewed and gain extra range, which can be used to sacrifice more farms. Between round 140 and round 160, my stalling was also quite poor, and that could be definitely improved upon, probably by just not using a Zilly Hex on the bads and letting them be popped down by raw DPS alone. I think my transition between farming and defense was really good, but the final ninja pixels themselves could probably be made better if you spent a day in sandbox testing, as well as the tech bot and overclock spacing. I also cross-pathed my carrier flagship incorrectly, making it a 502 instead of a 520. I chose not to cross-path my overclocks with sentries because of the extreme amount of lag this would cause for such a tiny increase in damage, but if you really want to, you could do this. Removing the primary sack from the support temple and replacing it with military, and also removing the magic sacrifice, making it a 0101 temple, could significantly help, as this temple is absolutely shredding through the stall. This would help a lot because military is the global range sacrifice, whereas primary is the close range, and swapping these two would reduce the damage dealt significantly. I did end up removing the overclock on this temple eventually, but I did give it ultra boost stacks. Another option could be simply moving this temple into literally anywhere else on the map where it won't damage the stall as badly. With the usage of the permabrew bugged Opolis, it might be better to place the Opolis above the water, where the primary expertise is in the final setup, and use that for jungle jumps range instead. That way, it will also generate money even in the final setup. The primary expertise will still need to be bought though, as it is vital for allowing the super brittle to hit the first and last vertical lanes, as well as reducing the glue storm cooldown. If there is a way, which there probably is, to have the TSG on the bottom right of the pool instead of the bottom left while still fitting everything, that would be better for maintaining stall. If you are really vigilant on trying to preserve the stall, you could also move the first embrittlement slightly forward so it doesn't debuff the stall. I do want to say, if you have made it this far, please consider liking the video and subscribing. It really makes me feel like all the effort I have put into not just this video, but each and every one I make for you guys is totally worth it. Now, I haven't made it this far completely alone. There are quite a few tools I have used in this run to make it easier to complete. The most important one is undoubtedly mouse keys. With this accessibility setting in your PC settings, you can change the function of your numpad to move your mouse one pixel at a time. This allows for pixel perfect placements. But you can actually go further than that. Sub-pixel placements are possible and allow for more precise and tight placements. By using nudge mode, where you click somewhere where you cannot place the tower and then drag it around, you can combine this with mouse keys to get sub-pixel perfect placements. Another useful tool is a seed checker made by my good friend Dogs the Femboy, which allows you to upload your profile.save file and find out your game's seed, and therefore calculate exactly what is coming on various rounds. And if you really want to beat me, you should reset until you get a good seed which has a low amount of bads, which I did not do. and my seed is actually quite bad for this. This tool also allows you to check upcoming rounds, so if you are stuck on a really hard round, you can see if the next ones will be just as hard or a little bit easier. You can find this tool at freeplaydatabase.org along with a work in progress leaderboard for freeplay runs. There is a setting in the hotkeys page which allows you to increase the size of your BTD6 cursor. You should never use this in freeplay, as it causes your mouse to only update once per frame, meaning that it jumps around a lot and is really hard to track. If you use a regular size cursor, it updates at normal speed and is so much easier to use. Remember to set a hotkey for all of the abilities you can, because using hotkeys is easier than clicking on the things in late game. If you are not recording the rounds like I am, you should change the resolution of your game to be as low as possible during the rounds where you are not doing anything. This increases the performance of the game and is extremely useful. However, it can weaken the seeking projectiles, so extremely close rounds are better played in full resolution. And with that, we beat round 553 and we're finishing off round 554 now, breaking the world record. This will be the end of today's video, but don't worry, there will be another one coming in the future where I push this as far as it can go. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like, subscribe, and use code THESTEAL. See ya!